All right, welcome to the Champions Way podcast. I am joined by a good friend of mine, Jacob Wilkinson here. Jacob, pleasure to have you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, guys, Champions Way podcast here to help all men live the. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Can't even do my own intro. Helping men live the life of a champion, all aspects of life, personal, professional, physical, and financial. In this segment, we're going to dive into the physical piece. So to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background, so I went to many of you know if you don't already. So I used to own my own gym, right? Real into the fitness space of things, and then after I sold my gym, I actually got into a training system called Functional Patterns, and I actually went to get a certification, and this is where I met Jacob. He's super knowledgeable. He went further with it than I did, and I wanted to get him on here to give him a platform to talk about all this stuff because it's really cool in terms of what he's doing and taking a version of that and spinning it to a more digestible it's a more digestible form of it rather than the functional patterns training itself, even though it's good in its own right. I think from my opinion, from where it lacks, and I have talked about this, is the ability to have it translate in terms of simplicity. And what you have is something that definitely helps with that. So I'll let you give a little bit of introduction to yourself, man, and tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what is it you do.
Cool. My name's Jacob Wilkinson, and I train people physically to help them raise the capacity of their system, so feel and move better um, internally, and then enough so to match the external as well. And then I also do mentoring, where I teach from um, kind of like uh, an ancient framework in which to see things. And right now, I'm really working with trying to get that across to people because just like we talked about the functional patterns, and I have like a background, I guess, formally in like bachelor's of kinesiology, um, and then broke my back, and then all the learning that came from that. So the
Yeah.
really like boots on the ground, non theory, this is real, I have to apply these things experience. And then muscle activation techniques, where I became a specialist in that, full body specialist, as well as then, yes, functional patterns. So did the HF, so the human foundations, which was like the first tier, and then did the um, human biomechanics specialist one and flew and experienced that as well.
I know we've chatted about that in the past. Um, so so I know because we've worked together a little bit, and a lot of the framework that you do, I think the main thing kind of comes down to is you talk about movement is moving without pain, which I think is really really powerful for a lot of people. And with today's way of training is it's very it doesn't hold everything together. It isolates a lot of movements, right? And then beyond that, when we get into some of the other training programs, it gets into combining everything into one. But I think what you do is being able to combine that and then make it into a digestible form. So I know there's about like 5 or 6 different segments of what is it you do. If you want to kind of just brush over the top two, man, and tie it into what it is, and maybe actually, let's do this. You talked about breaking your back because I think this is relevant. What tell us your story. What, like, how has things transpired for you to get to this point? Break that down for me.
So I was helping run a gym, uh, and we had like the CrossFit gym. I was personal training, group training. I was running a MMA conditioning class in a garage gym. I was in college, so I'd wake up at like 4, go open the garage doors, and run my boxing class, and then finish, drive up to UNT, do classes, and then come back, and then do more boxing, and then like it was all that. So college and gym stuff, my bachelor's in kinesiology, so exercise science. It was all moving up towards this, you know, health and wellness instruction position.
Mm-hmm.
and that was who I was. And then I was doing so much, I was doing a lot of like combat stuff, or like a lot of ground fighting, Olympic lifting, rock climbing, extreme stuff, and my body was just so like I just did so much that finally I ended up tweaking it. So I threw somebody, I suplexed someone, and it's it had a little tweak like in my back, and health and wellness was like my expertise. So I'm like, okay, that's okay, I can handle this. And I was doing some sort of stretch that I like learned at the time, and I was turning, and I just pulled and just went, and it was like a gunshot went off of my hip, and then I thought I like killed myself actually,
Oh, jeez.
because it was just like this huge, and then I like couldn't move, and I was like, ah, yeah. So ended up blowing my L5S1. Long story short, like I was, I couldn't really move. I kind of had to walk around with a limp. I had the pain in my back that was excruciating all the time. And then I tried to fix it more, and it went down in my foot. So I got the sciatica, and it just became this journey there. Like, I got to figure this stuff out. And if I can just figure this stuff out, maybe I can, or once I figure this out, I can help other people with whatever I know. So that was kind of origin story.
Got it. That's sounds pretty scary. I know.
Yeah, it was bad.
I had when I was God, I was 20, I think I was 20. I was 20 or 21, but I stepped off a box and I landed. I still have the screws in my left it's my left fifth metatarsal, so
Ooh.
my left pinky toe, right? And I stepped down wrong and it just snapped. Like it was like a twig popped.
Oh.
Right? And it's like it's when your body makes these weird noises, it's just like it's you're like, what the fuck?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah. So walk me through that. So, you're going through all trying to piece everything together, struggling with all of that. And then you change directions to improve your body and your health. What did you do? How did that all work out for you?
So
Take me
it
through
was
that.
like the first steps was like, okay, go to this doctor, go to that doctor. So go to this chiropractor, go to this chiropractor, go to this MD, um, try this method of training, try this thing, learn. Um, and, everybody says, oh, we got the thing. And so you go do the thing, and it's like, ah,
Not the thing.
I'm still hurting. What's wrong? Your thing's wrong. It couldn't be me. Uh, so I did, and physical therapy. I did different physical therapies, three, which I was disheveled with. But the first thing that got me some relief was muscle activation techniques.
Hmm.
So it's technique, or basically where I got on a table, and then it's not like a massage, it's like somebody's restoring your connection to the muscles, and activating them, but
Hmm.
they're creating like stability within your system. And it was the first time, you know, my mentor is over in the next room, but he was the first time I saw him. I got on his table, and I was walking in like on the wall, because just everything was so inflamed.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't look down, like like I know the thing happened here, but I couldn't look down to read a book. Like I
Wow.
couldn't sit. It was just like being on fire all the time. And I got off his table, and it was the first time that I like could like walk like with a normal gait. So that was like, I was like, oh, it's actually possible to not stay stuck in this position. So that was like the first door that I started walking down. I was like, I got to learn this.
That's wild, dude. So, um, and then that led us to where you and I met. Is that kind of what transpired from there, or was there anything in between?
So that was like 2 years becoming a specialist in that, flying from Texas to Colorado back and forth, learning these techniques, and then getting to high levels of that, especially like refining at home,
Hmm.
or home state. And then there was this point where I was like, what if my freaking like mentor dies or like something happens to my person that's working on me, then I'm
Yeah.
screwed. So I wanted to figure this thing out. Okay, it's possible to get moving to feel better.
Hmm.
How can I take it from somebody working on me to me doing exercises to create that for myself? And that's when I started locking onto functional patterns and seeing that.
Got it. So yeah, so you and I met. So you went through the whole learning journey, and then take us to now. So what is it that you're working on right now? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So went through the functional pattern stuff, learned things from different people. And now what I'm working on now is uh, over the past about 2 years, been kind of um, decoding like ancient knowledge stuff. So like the yin yang symbol, the five elements, the bagua, and these things are basically like maps of how life organizes itself.
Hmm.
And when you can start to understand and see kind of the whole picture and see how it's organized, then everything that you've learned before, it's like you can start to see it and organize it in a very workable way. So that's what I've been working, and I basically, in understanding that stuff, it allowed me to make all my other stuff work. So, so that's there's all these techniques that can be done, and they're great. They're all great, and they all help. And what I found that helped me the most was understanding the big picture, and that's what I want to give to people so that they can get this big picture and then start to make all these other things start to work for them. Or if they are already working, which is great, help foster even more workability with that.
That's awesome. All right, we're back. Um, so what you're doing? So you're taking the ancient stuff, ancient knowledge, and how are you applying it to what you're doing right now?
How am I
Yeah.
oh
So
how am I yeah.
yeah, because I know like when you and I talked, you brought up like some of the Chinese medicine and the wood stuff. What was some of the others, right?
Right,
Um,
yeah, fire, water,
yes, yeah, yeah,
earth,
yeah.
all that
So
stuff.
talk to me. How's that break down to how the body works? What's your system that you have there?
So like we see these maps or we see these symbols, but it's just like if you were to go to another country and you were to look at a sign, maybe in like Korean,
Hmm.
it's like it wouldn't make any sense to us
Right.
because it's just like I never seen that before. But if you're around here, it's like I see this gas station like 7-Eleven, I see McDonald's, I see the letters
Hmm.
and they just instantly mean something to me. And because we can read and understand language, we can understand, oh, okay, that's the Circle K, that's the 7-Eleven, this is this, or this is the medical, this is that. So it's kind of like the same thing. We look at the symbol and then we can know this idea. So trying to take these symbols, like being able to see the little Tai Chi symbol and see the five elements. So you have the fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, and then start to be able to see what they mean, but also see how they interact with each other. And the way it works with, fitness is this is how these symbols represent how life organizes itself. So if we're going to create development within ourselves, there's going to be this kind of nurturing stage of development, and there's going to be like a maturity stage of development, and then there's going to be an expression stage of the development. And it helps us kind of see things in a different way and foster um, health. So say somebody they can't feel their glutes or something. And say there's this.
No, real quick. So when you say
Okay.
can't feel glutes, are we talking? Oh, just slammed into my desk. Um, when somebody can't feel glutes, is it like they literally like it's numb, or is it that it's just not activating through the movement?
So maybe like say like both, or say like maybe it's numb, maybe we actually can't connect to it.
Okay.
And if we need to connect to it, there needs to be a channel to it. So we need to be able to create an active pathway to it. So there has to be a development of that channel. And we can start to like look at these, uh, like for example, a little bit further, this is kind of like a higher level or whatever, but there's this idea of like thunder where we can look at the image and the name of it is thunder, but we can kind of think like, what is thunder? Like what is the nature of thunder? And I had to actually learn a lot of like physics and other places to figure out these symbols and then how to relate them and transfer their essences to different ideas. But thunder is going to represent like the birth of life. So like a seed, kind of opening, and then there's suddenly life. So it would be the first stage of being able to feel something. So if we're going to imitate that idea of thunder, say to get the glued on, maybe just not activated right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's going to be this almost like this trembling, this kind of trying to pump the energy into that area.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that thunder, it comes from below, and then it's kind of like a shocking sort of thing. So it's like even though there's nothing there now, and we're trying to get a little bit of action, so there's going to be just this little tremble in the beginning of activating a muscle.
So it's almost like the rumble of thunder is like the rumble of like a muscle twitching and trying to activate to connect it through different movements. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Cool.
Hmm.
So then what's next? So thunder, and then what do you typically follow up with that?
So we have this thunder, and we'll often see like getting somebody to like activate a muscle. Like you'll see the trembling, you'll actually
Mm-hmm.
see the shaking in somebody, and so there's this neurological like trying to fire,
Mm-hmm.
and this idea of thunder. This is within the harmonies. So thunder's opposite, which is going to foster its life, is going to be wind. And so we can think about the essence of wind. So when opposites come together, they create life. So we're going to think about the development of something. Yes, there's like just the firing of it, but what fosters that development? So we can start to create kind of full movement. So this wind idea, so we have the harmony between thunder
Mm-hmm.
and wind is going to have this sort of like wrestling, this sort of kind of playful interaction, kind of like a nurturing interaction.
Okay.
And it has kind of this back and forth, right? Like wind pressure. It's not just one thing. It actually, because of heat and different pressures and temperatures, it has this kind of like back and forth um, nature to it. So when we see somebody developing that first baby parts of activation, we have the firing, so like the thunder part of like from below, and then we have the answering of the like pumping through that area. And that would be like a full completion of something just kind of being born.
So when you're talking about the full completion of the pumping, are you referring to like the electrical signals to the muscle, the blood flow? Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Uh-huh. Yes. So just kind of like we're taking these symbols and we're thinking about them, and then we're taking that essence of it, and then now we're moving it into physiology. So literally with winds, it's like, yes, we have that pumping, but we can also think wind is this exchange of pressure and gases. So we're actually going to have this exchange of pressure and gases, we're going to have our nitrous oxide entering that area. We're going to have the oxygen, the blood entering that area. We're going to
Got it.
have the mixture between uh, a lighter molecular makeup, like airish, so the gas, and then we're going to have kind of a heavier molecular makeup, so the like the blood or the lymph, within creating moisture and hydration within the fascia of the area so that it can begin to develop.
Got it. Okay. So you have thunder, which is going to cause the trembling, the activation, and then you have the wind, which is essentially, you could say, blowing the right nutrients to the muscles to then nurture that continuous development. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Then what? What's your next step? What do you do from there?
So that would be the birth of life, right? We
Okay.
had we had
Cool.
nothing to start with, and we're trying to move it towards like a structured something, an alive something. So we've taken this harmony, this idea of the thunder and winds, which is the thunder. We have like the masculine initiation, and we have the feminine nurturing in its beginning stages of life, of developing something that's, muscle, right? Or fascia,
Yep.
whatever.
Right.
And now we're going to move into its maturity. And so as something, starts in life, it's erratic. It's not organized, like a baby, like children, right? They're all over the
Mhm.
place. Um, it's alive now, but it's not quite ordered at all.
Right. Okay.
So so we're going to move into our next harmony, which would be fire. So fire. So it's going to be kind of like this maturity. So now we got the thing to fire. Okay, great. It's actually alive. Our
Right.
If I'm working with like a client or something, it's like, oh, I can actually sense it. Like before, it didn't even exist. Now I can sense it. Now I can do something with it. So now we're going to create kind of a structure, an organization. So, with the MAT or your traditional working out or your functional patterns or whatever, it's like, okay, now we're going to organize it to actually move in a direction that we want to, or create stability in a direction that we want to. So now that it exists, let's set it up to actually help us in whatever our context is, which FP would really like, standing or throwing or running.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's like, okay, now we've created life in the tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's create a context for it, for just stability in like standing.
Got it. Okay. So you had mentioned fire, I think, at one point through there. So you have, right, it's activation, but there's really no structure to it. So with what you do, where's that structure fall into place, right? We have the thunder, we have the wind that comes in. So we have the thunder that's activating the muscle, we have the wind blowing the nutrients and everything to the muscle to keep it developing and as it's going. What element follows suit from there?
Okay, so yeah, excellent. So, and I've been working in the higher level stuff, so this is kind of just where my brain is at the moment. But so we're working in the harmonies. So we had our thunder and our thunder and our wind, and you know, if it helps here, right? We have our thunder and we have our wind. This is like a harmony, and when
Right.
it comes together, it makes life in the middle, which I don't quite have drawn. So now we're gonna move to fire and water, and we'll see that like this fire kind of image, it has these hard lines on the outside and kind of like this open line on the inside.
Right.
And then this water, which is going to be like the feminine, is going to have this open lines on the outside and this hard line on the inside. So we could think, um, we've created this thing, we've created a little bit of life. And now to organize it, to create a maturity, we need to a lot of people like lift weights, right? Or you're looking at something and you're orienting yourself around it. So you need to be able to orient yourself with the external, which would be the fire aspect. It's kind of like, or an idea of it, playing with the symbols here. You have to be able to orient yourself within your environment. So there needs to be like a perception of the environment, or how do I interact with this external weight? And then there needs to be this orientation from the inside. How do I orient myself within this place? So I need to be able to understand, like if I'm balancing on something, my relationship between my environment and my relationship with myself. And that harmony, that combination is going to create the maturity.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool. So then when you're I guess the next thing then is like what's an easy takeaway? So somebody who's listening, right? And they're trying to determine like, hey, my back's hurting me. My knee's hurting me. How are they able to take this system and apply it to what they do from a movement standpoint?
So
Or just a
if
healing
somebody has
standpoint,
like a
for that
pain,
matter.
a healing standpoint, yeah. So the way to look at these things is like we look at the little Tai Chi symbol, like the little yin and yang thing,
Mhm.
or we look at the elements, or we look at the Bagua or whatever, and we'll notice that it's always like this circle. So I think a lot of the industry right now, especially for like sales purposes, is like one person shoots down another person's idea. They're like, oh, that thing that you're doing, that yoga thing, it's bad. Everything about it's bad. But what I got is better. So you need to stop all that and do this. And it's a lot of like cherry picking, um, versus seeing everything as just a matter of circulation.
Okay.
So it's like the the body, again, the body within itself, the body within the external. Am I able to circulate well within my body? And am I able to circulate well with my environment? And if I'm not, where can we start to adjust the excess or the deficit?
Okay. So what?
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So like, let's do some actionable steps for somebody who's trying to heal their body or they're in pain, right? They take this, the ancient approach that you have with and how this ties into muscle activation and getting nutrients and everything like that. What's something that they could do for themselves and take this concept and how they move, how they heal their bodies? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'd say first, like, if you could just be still with yourself, can you breathe? Like when you breathe in, does it feel like you can actually get a breath, like an even in and
Mm-hmm.
an even out? And if you can't quite get it all the way in or can't quite get it all the way out, what spaces can we start to breathe into to start to even out the rhythm of that circulation? So just to kind of start, like, am I like imbalanced? Am I more, because a lot of the thing, it's like, yes, it's circulation, and everything is in balance. So imbalance is sort of the thing we're trying to root out.
Mm-hmm.
So can I have an even in breath out, or an even breath in, even breath out? And can I maybe even start to like, when I'm standing, can I really connect into the ground? Like, can I actually feel my feet connecting into the ground, like through my feet up here? Because our first circulation is going to be with the pressure in and pressure out. And then it's like the other circulation would be physically, can I actually connect with my environment? Can I actually feel my feet moving through here? So if you're just to start out with something, noticing the the breath, because that'll also sync up with the body and the mind to it. Can I actually
Mm-hmm.
get in rhythm with my own body? So a lot of times they're out of rhythm with their body, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're already dysregulated. So literally just noticing the breath and following it gets the uh, the nerve system actually to connect with the body and not be disconnected. And then starting to find gaps within the body in which you can't feel through, and then devise ways in which you can feel through.
Got it. Where's that apply to? So with your teaching, where does that come in? Like what would be some of the things that you would tie in with that? You see what I'm saying?
Like like practical application, like exercise wise, or like.
Just from a whole picture. So I guess what I'm trying to do is help decipher what it is from these elements because they all tie together with everything that you teach, right? So
Mhm.
it's from when we're talking about breathing, standing, feeling, connection to the grounds and stuff like that. Where's that
Mhm.
fall in what you teach? You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
You know,
So
you have various different things that will tie to itself and feed the other, right? From elements to different things, really.
right.
How's it what you're doing? How's that tie into that? Does that make sense?
So how
How,
is
how does how does breathing, how does standing, how does it feeling the ground? Where's that fall in this realm of what it is that you're doing?
just like a lot of what it is just beginning to notice the essences of things. Because I think really with anybody trying to get into any sort of, like, even if you feel good and you're trying to work out or develop something, like the first step is to actually notice yourself.
Hmm.
I think everybody can get really, really caught in just techniques, thinking thoughts. It's like, oh, this method, and just getting really caught in one method or another method. Um, so, like when it comes to application with the work, like say, without like giving, I guess I can. The cool thing about this is I literally can give it away, but it's like you can figure all this stuff out. It's just we haven't organized. So uh, say like what I've seen before. It's like you have somebody with something like a massive swelling, like somebody has like a hunch or
Hmm.
something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so they have like a hump on their back of their neck, and the hump is there because circulation is poor. If you have a stream and some beavers build up a dam in it, the water just sits there. Versus before, it would be an ongoing stream.
Hmm. Hmm.
So okay, then we can even think of the beavers, right? We have a dam there somehow. So how can we reduce that dam? How can we? Because the idea of circulation would be that there's an input and there's an output.
Hmm.
So okay, there's only an input here. So how can we create an output? So how can we create like a drainage?
Hmm.
So what I would use within one of the frameworks would be this would be kind of like a spring and fall sort of idea. It's like spring is the entering of life
Hmm.
and fall is going to be the exiting. You need both to keep renewing life. So how could I work this? Like, how could I reduce this hump? Okay, I can get like muscle activation through there. I can activate the muscles around it because as I activate the muscles around it, there's going to be that entering. And as we understand the seasons, if we create entering, there's going to be an exiting.
Mm-hmm.
If we have spring, it's going to foster the life of fall. So if I get these muscles to actually contract and start working, it's actually going to foster the opposite. It's going to foster the life of, yes, stuff coming in, but also creating a pump to get stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So I could use the idea of developing something, developing muscles around there so that I can actually increase the circulation and reduce like a hump that may be filled with lymph or whatever. I could reduce somebody's somebody's like affliction, but not me doing it, getting their organism to
Right.
do it itself, so it generates itself,
Got it. Got it.
which might have been too complicated of an answer.
Oh, no,
So,
you're good, man. Cool.
yeah.
Well, we're running out of time here. So anything else you want to chime in on? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. I definitely recommend learning this stuff. When you start to see kind of the big picture and just you can see things in just symbols, you can kind of just see them see larger things more here than all around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely recommend, sending me a message or checking me out if you want to learn how to see the world a little bit differently and be able to organize it for yourself just in a smaller, more workable way. And it's quite the journey, not gonna lie, but it's really worth it on the other side for sure.
Cool. Yes, I can attest to that. Awesome, man. Well, appreciate having you. It was a lot of fun. Learned some stuff, which is always good. So, thanks again, brother.
Cool. Thanks so much, Sam. Thank you.